The author also says that increasingly public participation in governmental decision making is considered part of the very definition of democracy. Without the participation of the public, it is impossible to achieve real democracy. However, it's important to note that all of the definitions of public participation included above, it has like some kinds of participation that are important components of democracy, but we will not discuss in this class. For example, the electoral process, that's part of democracy, but again, like we're looking at planning specifically, there might be lawsuits, which actually occur quite a bit in planning. If somebody doesn't like a decision, like a developer, well, they're going to use the legal system in order to just change the outcome if they felt that it was unjust. And also you have like strikes and protests, and those are like very important forms of democracy, but and they are also discussed actually in urban planning and in urban programs, but that's not the kind of participation or democracy that it is discussed too much in City Hall, where you're like likely to work. You might also be likely to work, for example, in a nonprofit, and in nonprofits, protests and strikes might be very important, but in terms of like having your organization dealing with like the everyday public participation, it will mostly look like groups of residents meeting in your agency, nonprofit, and making decisions. So the day-to-day public participation, it's not in protests and strikes. But again, in this class, we might also discuss those topics, but our primary goal is to talk about public participation in concepts outside of like these three: electoral process, lawsuits, strikes, and protests. When most people think about what public participation looks like in planning, they think about a public hearing. So a public hearing is where a developer will go to the planning commission, and they will talk about their project, and people will come to the meeting to discuss that specific project. In a decision that is more administrative, meaning that there's already a set of regulations put in place, basically a checklist of what is allowed and what is not allowed. Maybe the developer is asking for some exceptions. Maybe they're saying we would like more height, and the reason is because the lot is it has some problems and we cannot get enough depth in the lot, and in order to make this project viable, we will need more height, right? So the administrative process and the public hearing will be for you to talk about what are the issues, and maybe you need like a conditional use permit, or there's something else that you want to do. So this will be time to express what you want to do as a developer, and then the public will come to this meeting. It could be also that the city wants to do something in public lands, or maybe they're looking at adding like a new transit station, making some changes to maybe some zoning or regulations. And then the public comes, the one presenting in this case, it will be you as a planner or a staff member, and then the public will come to this like public hearing, and you will see this not only in planning commission, but you see it in like many different commissions that the city might have, maybe related to housing, maybe related to transportation, homelessness specifically, and then again, this is like the most visible way of public participation. When we think about public participation, we think about this, the public hearing. And it is already like on the PowerPoint, but this is more like a question. So do you know what's the average number of people that show up to any public hearing? And the answer is 9. You can expect 9 people to attend to your public hearing, outside of like the people that have to be there, right? The developer, the staff, the commissioners, the architects. So, and that's on average. So it means like many times you will see literally nobody, 0 people show up for a public hearing in a particular project. Or there might be a lot of people, but when people are coming to meetings, it looks like in the picture here, because they are probably very angry. So again, on the one hand, you have that most public hearings look completely empty, and on the other hand, if they show up, it's because they are angry. So maybe the people are opposing that there's like a new hospital going to be built in Sugar House, and people will not want to pay inside of the parking provided for this hospital, and they feel that there will be some overflow of parking into their neighborhood. So they want to like fight the development. So that's an example. I think that traffic concerns and also safety concerns, that for example you have like a new building, maybe it's like a multi-family, and people think a lot of young people without kids are going to move to the neighborhood, and they have different priorities, and therefore I don't want these people in my neighborhood. And that could happen with like thinking about millennials that are going to move into a place in 1 bedrooms, market rate housing, or it could be that also they're fighting like a new homeless shelter that is going to move there. So again, the picture is that people might be angry. It's very rare to find people that are supporting a project. That almost never happens, although I have seen it, and I do have like a great example of this, and it is the development actually in the downtown area. It's called the Other Side Academy, and they actually built the Armstrong Mansion, a place that was abandoned, and they actually like restored it. They were looking into buying actually other buildings in the neighborhood that were or vacant land that was either abandoned or dilapidated, and they are actually an organization for individuals that have been previously incarcerated, and so it's like a group home, which sometimes is something that is like opposed oftentimes. I would say almost 100% of the time is like opposed by neighbors, because they might believe that it lowers property values and so on. But like they were such a good neighbor that people really liked them because they were very friendly. They actually increased safety in the neighborhood according to other neighbors. They were going around and helping older adults that needed something. So they actually became an asset to the neighborhood in a way that they actually found a lot of supporters to come to a public hearing and say how wonderful they were and how they were great neighbors. There were like hundreds of people in a meeting supporting this project, and there was like no one that opposed it. I was like truly amazed.
I did a 2-year prison term. I got out for 60 days. 5-year prison term, got out for 59 days. 6-year prison term, got out for 4 months, and then a 10-year prison term and got out for 4 months.
When you get strung out on heroin, it's just all consuming. You can't do anything. I mean, you just completely taken hostage by it.
In my case, I didn't even get help till I was 50. I didn't leave until I was 56.
If what you have is not a problem of motivation, but a problem of ability, the people just don't know how to live a sober life, or an orderly life, or an honest life. If they just have no experience doing that, you can motivate the heck out of them, but they're going to keep recycling back through the system over and over again.
It's amazing how many years I did in prison, and it never taught me to tell the truth. Get to a place like the Other Side Academy where my peers hold me accountable and I can't get away with anything, and I learned everything I had forgotten.
The long-term goal of the Other Side Academy is that every single person on the planet who is ready to change their life has the tools to do it.
What the Other Side Academy is it's a 2-year re-education facility, and we help the most lost among us. Former drug addicts, people who have lived their lives on the streets, in jails and prisons.
We're going to let you build a new image, but your image is going to be built from you going forward, not who you thought you were when you got there.
There is no sort of staff, quote unquote, in the Other Side Academy. What you're going to find is people that are much farther down the road that you've been on. And they started at the place that you're at right now.
We don't take any money from the government, no money from the state, no grants, no subsidies. We earn our money ourselves. One of the ways that we do it is we have our moving company called the Other Side Movers.
Students at the Other Side Academy pay nothing to attend. All they have to do is work to change their life and to support the family.
The money that we generate goes back into our facility so that we don't have to take any money from the government. We can become self-supportive.
Why this works is because it's long and it's real.
I started believing in myself again.
It allows you to stay in a mode of practicing new behaviors until they go to the marrow of your bone.
We're living proof that, you can stop living the way that you're living, and there's another way to life. It doesn't have to be the way it's been for so long.
What is it worth to save a life?
GE builds electronics, Ford builds cars. The Other Side Academy rebuilds lives.